The last text message arrived from my wife's phone 3 hours after the police pulled her car from the river. It was a single sentence, glowed on the screen of my shattered, rain-soaked phone. I'm not the one who crashed. It was a pirate radio signal that had briefly plagued the airwaves of the coastal town of Ravens Point in the late 1980s. It didn't play music. For 3 months, every night at 3:17 a.m., a man with a calm, soothing voice would tell a single, ongoing story. A mystery. He called it the Chronicle of the Gray Sea Inn. Then, one night, the broadcast stopped mid-sentence and never returned. The host, who called himself the Keeper, vanished. Ilara had managed to digitize a handful of crackly, degraded recordings from a local enthusiast. The story was captivating. It was a detailed, real-time account of the guests arriving at a seemingly ordinary inn. But the Keeper's narration held an unsettling omniscience. He didn't just describe their actions, he detailed their secret fears, their hidden shames, their unspoken desires. She was hooked. Her audience was hooked. And the comment section was flooded with one question: what happened to the Keeper? The breakthrough came from an anonymous donor who mailed her a box of unlabeled cassettes. Among mixtapes of 80s pop songs was one with a single word on its label: Keeper. With trembling hands, she slotted it into her deck. It was a recording she'd never heard before. The Keeper's voice was strained, frantic. He was no longer narrating the story. He was pleading. It's not a story. It never was. It's a record, a loop. I'm not a storyteller. I'm a witness. And the door is real. It's in the basement. I can hear them on the other side. They know I can hear them. They're waiting for me to finish, but the story never ends. The tape ended with a sharp mechanical thump and the sound of shattering glass. And then, clear as day, a new voice, faint and whispering, spoke one final sentence onto the tape after the fact, a secret added later. Find the inn. Driven by compulsion she couldn't explain, Ilara packed her bags. Using details from the broadcasts, descriptions of jagged cliff faces, a specific type of rare moss on the stones, and the mournful cry of a particular species of gull, she cross-referenced maps and old travel guides until she found it. The Gray Sea Inn wasn't on any modern map. It was a crumbling, Victorian-era structure perched on the edge of a lonely cliff in Ravens Point, shrouded in perpetual sea mist. It looked exactly as the Keeper had described it 25 years ago, as if time itself had refused to touch it. The town of Ravens Point was a closed book. The few locals in the dusty pub clammed up at the mention of the inn or the radio broadcasts. Their fear was palpable. "Bad place," the bartender muttered, refusing to meet her eyes. "Some stories are best left buried with the tide." Undeterred, Ilara rented the place. The key was held by a nervous lawyer in town who handed it over with a look of profound pity. The inside was a time capsule. Dust sheets covered furniture. The guest's ledger from 1989 still lay open on the front desk. And the guests' names were there, inscribed in fading ink. The exact names from the Keeper's broadcasts. Arthur Pembroke in room 3, a businessman hiding embezzlement. Clara Bell in room 5, fleeing an abusive husband. A cold dread settled in her stomach. This wasn't a coincidence. The Keeper hadn't been crafting fiction. He had been documenting reality with terrifying, impossible accuracy. Her first night was restless. The wind howled like the ghosts in the keeper's stories, and at 3:17 a.m., her eyes snapped open. A sound, not from the wind, but within the house. A low, rhythmic creak, creak, creak. It was coming from the basement. The basement door was exactly where the keeper had described it in his final panicked broadcast. It was heavy oak, banded with iron, and locked with a massive, antiquated padlock. It took her most of the next day to find the key. It was hidden inside a hollowed-out copy of Moby Dick on a shelf in the lobby, the favorite book of Arthur Pembroke, the embezzler from the story. The lock clicked open with a sound that echoed through the silent inn. The stairs descended into absolute blackness. The air was cold and still, smelling of salt and damp stone. Her flashlight beam cut through the darkness, illuminating a small circular cellar. And there, in the far wall, was the door. It wasn't made of wood or metal, but seemed to be fashioned from a single, polished piece of dark obsidian-like stone. It had no handle, no keyhole. Its surface was unnaturally smooth, reflecting her flashlight beam in a way that made it seem like a window into an abyss. Etched into its center was a symbol, a spiral enclosed within a circle. This was it, the source, the door the keeper had been so afraid of. As she approached, a low hum began to emanate from it, a vibration she felt in her teeth more than heard with her ears. She reached out, compelled to touch the cold, glassy surface. The moment her fingers made contact, a jolt, like a static shock, went up her arm, and in her mind, not her ears, a cacophony of whispers erupted, fragments of fear, secrets, regrets. They were the voices of the guests from the ledger, their innermost thoughts bleeding through the stone. She snatched her hand back, gasping. The door was a receiver. It wasn't keeping something out. It was keeping something in. Or perhaps it was tuning into something. Retreating from the basement, Ilara searched for where the keeper must have done his broadcasts. She found it in a small hidden room behind a bookcase in the library. It was a time capsule of 1980s recording equipment, a mixing board, a reel-to-reel tape recorder, and a powerful-looking radio transmitter. And there, on the desk, was his journal. The entries started with excitement. He'd bought the inn as a retreat, discovered the strange door, and found that when he sat near it, stories would flood his mind. Vivid, true stories of the people who slept above. He'd begun broadcasting them, thinking it a unique artistic experiment. But the tone soon changed. The door is changing. It's not just showing me their pasts anymore, it's showing me their futures. I saw Arthur Pembroke's car going over the cliffs. I saw Clarabelle's husband finding her. I tried to warn them, but they thought I was a madman. They left, and the things I saw, they happened exactly as I saw them. The door doesn't just show the future, it decides it. My narration isn't a prediction, it's a script, and it's hungry for an ending. The final entry was scribbled in a shaky hand. It wants a finale, a grand tragedy to complete the story. It's shown me how it ends, a fire. The inn burns with everyone trapped inside. It's the only ending loud enough to satisfy it. I won't be its narrator for that. I have to break the signal. I have to... The entry ended with a sharp mechanical thump and the sound of shattering glass. And then, clear as day, a new voice, faint and whispering, spoke one final sentence onto the tape after the fact. A secret added later. Find the inn. Driven by a compulsion she couldn't explain, Ilara packed her bags. Using details from the broadcasts, descriptions of jagged cliff faces, a specific type of rare moss on the stones, and the mournful cry of a particular species of gull, she cross-referenced maps and old travel guides until she found it. The Gracie Inn wasn't on any modern map. It was a crumbling, Victorian-era structure perched on the edge of a lonely cliff in Ravens Point, shrouded in perpetual sea mist. It looked exactly as the keeper had described it 25 years ago, as if time itself had refused to touch it. The town of Ravens Point was a closed book. The few locals in the dusty pub clammed up at the mention of the inn or the radio broadcasts. Their fear was palpable. "Bad place," the bartender muttered, refusing to meet her eyes. "Some stories are best left buried with the tide." Undeterred, Ilara rented the place. The key was held by a nurse